Hello, 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 and welcome to another edition of WTF. What the Footy? Couple of Yanks shooting blanks on Australian rules football. This is episode 11 for May 18th, 2026. He's one co-host, Joe Rutter. I'm the other, Robert Gregory. And Joe, I don't want to make too much of this.
Yes.
Today's open, okay? Because I mean, we still got more than half the season to go, and what have you. And there's already plenty of unnecessary blowing up drama from media types over there. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But I will say, today's open is a long time coming.
Oh, it certainly is. I've been waiting. It's only the second time since we've had this show.
Yeah.
So I proudly doff my cap to the Carlton Blues as a winning team, coming off the big win over Western, which, take it for what it is. Western started off 4-0, but just been decimated by injuries, and it just
I think that's a quality win.
It is a quality win, but very excited for that. Way back in episode 2, when I decided to do the song of the week, didn't realize I wasn't doing it correctly on here. Tried to play Carlton, didn't work. Now, to no surprise, we are going with our song of the week.
Victory song of the week.
Blues anthem.
You down. We're the only team all Carlton. The champions, they like to send up. We'll keep our end up, and they will know that they've been playing against the famous Bulldog Blues.
Joe, they're the team that never lets you down.
Yes. Except for the 7-game losing streak and all the blown leads. They never let you down.
Oh, we had them all the way.
Mm-hmm.
There was no doubt about it.
But I will say that with the game starting early in the morning, like 5:30 over here on a Saturday, I did not.
Very convenient.
Pretty much woke up in time to watch the end of the third quarter, beginning of the fourth, when Carlton turned it on and blew past Western.
Yeah.
The perfect time after watching them blow so many leads, the perfect time for them to come from behind, win. And it was a good thing to see on my end.
Yeah, Josh Frazier in his first game, getting his first victory. A guy that says that he doesn't think he's ready for the job.
Yeah, I found that interesting because I think he's mid-40s. He's had some experience as an assistant coach. I guess he was their VFL coach for a while.
I was going to say, isn't that where he's coming from? Isn't he their VFL coach now, or was he an assistant on Voss's staff?
Yeah, I think he was an assistant on Voss's staff. So this is the first year, but he was their VFL coach, if I recall correctly. And hey, if he keeps this team, makes his team competitive, and in these games, why wouldn't you think about giving him a chance?
I would think so. Yeah. Former top overall pick.
Mm-hmm.
Was that for Collingwood? I think he's played for
Collingwood
and he's played for Gold Coast. He was a ruck.
Mm-hmm.
Had a decent career. But like you said, he's been on various coaching staffs. The past few years. Gets his chance with the Blues, and if anything, this is a fan base that needed something, right? If we rewind back to last week, we had breaking news, which has prompted me now to say the episode and date at the top of the show, because I thought maybe that's a good idea if we're going to have like breaking news happen. But, Michael Voss, stepping down. Just right after we were done recording, they named Frazier the interim coach. They have a short list, which is about a dozen names long, if you call that a short list of possible successors to Voss. But I don't know. Maybe they hang with it seemed like this team, especially in the fourth quarter, with the history they've had the last couple of years of just completely running out of gas, they seem to finally respond to each other, and I'm wondering if that's a Frazier effect.
And it might be, and it just might be. They just needed a change. They just needed to step back, take a breath, let the weight of the coaching situation just be taken away from them and let them go out and play. And they went out and played freely. They got stronger as the game went on. I don't think, from what I understand, he didn't change all that much, really. He just
as far as the lineups go and stuff, yeah,
the lineups and the strategy wasn't all that different.
Yeah,
I think he just let them go out and play relaxed footy, and they certainly looked like. I mean, it was an ugly, awful game there until about the fourth quarter.
You're not kidding. That first half was an abomination.
So that they hung on and won and pulled it out at the end. It made it convincing. I mean, it got a little hairy in the last minute or so, but you knew they really weren't going to blow it there. So it was a good win for them, and it's something they can build on going forward.
I think it became obvious, especially in the final minutes, when it seemed pretty certain that they were finally going to get a victory, that this Michael Voss monkey that had been on their shoulders and had just gotten bigger and bigger and bigger as the weeks had gone on. And again, I'm not a Michael Voss opponent, okay? I have all the respect in the world for him. It just wasn't working out, and I think the way, some of the videos that, the video you sent me about coaching for his life, which goes into the over drama that I'm talking about, that I'm going to get into here in just a little bit before we get into the show. But the seeming canonization of this guy in the moments and days following him leaving the club, to me, is just fortifies what I was saying about his persona and his history and why he was still allowed to coach. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and it clearly wasn't working. And
it was like his aura was controlling the situation when clearly it wasn't working out.
Yeah, and I think they wanted to, because of the respect he has as a player and as a former coach at Brisbane as well. I think they wanted to give him every chance, and I think they put him in a situation where he couldn't have succeeded, but they were afraid to cut the cord for the longest time. They knew they should have, and it didn't do anybody favor. It didn't do the club. It didn't do him any favors, and they finally just had to make a change. And I'm glad they did. We'll see what they look like for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Whether Josh Frazier says he's a permanent guy or not a permanent guy, let the play over the next 13, 14 weeks tell that story. And, and I would imagine if they're going to name a permanent coach, I wouldn't think they'd do it till the end of the season.
Well, I mean, we froze you for a second. So I'll just get this in. I hope you can still hear me, Joe. There you are.
Yeah.
So they're what, 2-8, right?
Yeah.
2-8. Is this still considered a lost season? I mean, I realize the hole they dug for themselves is probably almost about as deep as you can go. But I mean, I was looking at their, they came out with the schedule release. Release the rest of the schedule this week for the league. And I'm looking at these games that finally have dates and times, and I see West Coast and Richmond to start off that stretch.
Mm-hmm.
I see a Collingwood team, which we're going to talk about here in a second, that is outside the playoffs right now. You've got games against Hawthorn and Brisbane and Gold Coast, but you've also got St. Kilda, and you've also got the rematch against Western, plus the games in between. So, I mean, can we still think about 10th place and maybe sneaking into that wild card round?
I mean, they would have to make up for a lot of ground. I told my wife, I got all excited. I said, hey, my team's no longer in 16th place. They're in 15th place. Well, then West Coast won. So that knocked them back down to 16th place. So that was short-lived. That lasted about 24 hours.
Oh.
So they're still back in 16th. They've got to leave a bunch of teams. But if you keep piling up the points,
they're
mathematically, yes, they still have a chance.
Sure.
I mean,
sure.
but they've got to. They would really have to have the breaks go their way, and they'd have to run off a big streak of wins.
Which isn't out of the realm of possibility. I mean, we've seen teams roll off wins in the middle and second parts of the season to at least make things interesting. Right now, they're 5 wins. Actually, 6 wins from 10th place. So, yeah, I mean, that is a huge, huge hole. But I also think, this isn't a team that is in the same breath as Richmond or Essendon or West Coast. You know what I mean? I mean, this is a team. Well, this is a team that if you would have ended games in the third quarter, they'd probably be 8-2 instead of 2-8.
Well, they had going into this last game, they would have been in third if the game's only lasted 1/2.
Is that what it was?
Yeah. They were in third, if the games would have only been 1/2. So, I mean, they have talent. They have some good players. They finally got contributions from guys like Patrick Cripps that they needed, their captain. They got some good play on the back end. They've got some younger guys kind of stepping up here. The one guy, which I'll talk about later, I'm going to say for my final thought, Jack Ice.
Yeah. Froze again. Because he's got ice water in his veins.
Yes.
Go ahead and say your thought again, Joe.
My thought. Well, I said a guy like
little
Jack
preview
Ice,
of your final thought.
My final thought later in the show.
I don't think the internet wants
came up and had a really good game in his first game in the AFL, and he's a guy that you think you maybe can build around and provide hope for this franchise.
I don't think the internet wants you to preview because you froze again. So we're just going to wait until your final thought.
Yeah,
and we're going to get it.
It'll be figured out.
That's right. We'll keep it a big secret. What do you think about the new coach bounce? Oh, freezing again. You still there, Joe?
I'm here.
Okay, you are freezing up a storm.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on here.
What do you think about the new coach bounce? This is a term that was used with, teams getting new coaches, and do they get more power, more resilience? Do you believe in that?
I think that there is some merit to that, where you get a new coach and you get an instant jolt. But I think once that wears off, you hit a wall and you hit it hard. Adrenaline only takes you so far. So yeah, I think this can benefit them for a couple of weeks or so. But unless they start relying on their talent, and getting the contributions they've expected to get all year, at some point they're going to hit a wall, and it could, there's been instances in all sports where you play well for a while, then you just run out of gas and it gets ugly.
It's happened 16 times in the last decade.
Okay.
And teams with new coaches, believe it or not, are 7-9.
So
new coach bounce, well, maybe not. Yeah. 4 of those games, by the way, have involved, so a full quarter of those games have involved the Bulldogs. Okay, they have faced 4 teams that are coming into the game with a new coach. Western is 0-4 in those games. So while the stat is under 500, it's batting 1,000 if you're playing Western. They lost to St. Kilda in 2019, Melbourne last year. They also lost to North Melbourne in 2019, and then Carlton this year. So whether or not you believe in the new coach bounce, the stats really aren't there for it, unless you're Western.
Yes.
And then you want no part of it at all. Anyway, congratulations to the Blues. Like I said, if anything, their fan base needed something, right?
They really did.
Needed absolutely something. I'm going to touch real quick on my D's.
As you should. They
well, I mean, hello.
7-3.
You know what? They should be 8-2. Right?
Yeah.
Why are we still talking about Essendon? Because they lost to them. That's why.
And they lost convincingly.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, they weren't even in that game. But the D's this week at MCG where apparently they're unbeatable. The phrase "their fortress" must have been said at least a dozen times in the fourth quarter and the post-game shows for the D's, for Melbourne.
That's a new one. I'll have to follow that one.
Their fortress. MCG is now their fortress. Then they win going away 120-81 in another game that the first half was just abysmal on both sides. Missed opportunities, sloppy. Just absolutely sloppy play. But the D's found an edge in the third, pulled away in the fourth, 41-point victory. There they are, fifth place on the ladder, tied with Geelong and Gold Coast. Now,
it's a quality win over Hawthorn, which, we've looked at Hawthorn.
Well, I mean, it's not terribly politically correct in this country, but as they were saying, another scalp for the Demons. We can't say that here. We stay away from that kind of language. So the Aussies, maybe I'm just saying. Another good win. Another good win for the D's. We're talking what? Brisbane. They did lose to Freo, and they've lost to Sydney. Those are the three losses, right? Sydney, Freo, and then that stinker against Essendon.
Yeah. But
7-3, and now let's get into that point I wanted to make about the over-dramatization that the Aussie media loves to do. Because after the win, I saw more than a dozen social media entries saying, D's fans, book your tickets to the final in September. They're going to be there. And I'm just sitting there going, are you kidding me? It's May.
Yes.
Same people that were going Fremantle? How about Flagmantle? And I'm just like, oh my God, what's wrong with you people? Why are you doing this? Why do you continue? Yeah, why do you continue to throw drama queen over something that isn't even half over?
And imagine if the Western supporters did that after 4 games.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, the dynasty of the Bulldogs is here. And then half a dozen people get hurt, and then they have to step back. Kind of like the way Greater Western Sydney had to step back this week after losing to West Coast. That was
the whole flag incident. That was
the banner thing, and picking on Essendon for no reason because they're not very good either. And they were throwing shade on social media again today about something about empty seats on an airplane or something. And I'm just like, I think you people are deranged. I don't think you understand where you are or what's going on. I don't think you have any comprehension of you haven't read the room. You don't know how to read the room. You're not even seeing the room. You're just
looking at the ladder upside down. Is that
that could be. I mean, they're sitting there at 13. Them in North, which again, fine. Them in North sitting with 16 points. Well, that's the thing. They're sitting there. They're 4-5, and they have a lot of questions too. And frankly, I don't think they've looked good all year.
No, I don't think they have either. I mean, they're the team to me that it really, to me, has been disappointing that they're supposed to have been so much better, and they're just, they're not getting much. They're not getting any bang for their buck, and they've had a nice fall down toward the bottom of the ladder, and I don't see them climbing out anytime soon this season.
I mean, even St. Kilda,
it
was the team everybody was looking at because of all the money they spent, right?
Yep.
Even the Saints, who've been without Messiah for the past couple weeks, they're still in the wild card hunt. They're still sitting there at 9th. They at least have something to hang their hat on. The Giants, I don't know. I don't know what their deal is this year.
Yeah, I don't either. But it's and I don't see a quick fix there for this team either. It just hasn't come together, and they just look like a team that it's not their year.
Yeah. So we will talk a little bit more about the ladder when we do the recap near the end of the show. Let's switch gears on an issue that it's kind of got me a little fired up, Joe.
Not surprising.
And you mentioned this a couple weeks ago, and I know I did not put much emphasis on it, but I started digging into it in the last couple days. And it's this whole situation with Collingwood's Scott Pendlebury, the 38-year-old midfielder who this week will set the record for games played in the league in his 433rd game. The thing is, he could have set this record like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago.
Could have said it last week.
He could have said it last week.
Yep.
In what I think is probably, and I'll tell you what. Not even missing the playoffs. If they miss the wild card round by a game, or even 2 games, how do you not point to this? So, I mean, Collingwood, for better or worse, has managed Pendlebury's time so he could set this record at home. An absolute, unequivocal vanity exercise for the Pies.
And it cost him dearly a chance to pull off a big upset against the top team on the ladder, Sydney, where they lost by 6, I think.
It was what was it? They lost by a goal, 81-75. Yeah. Okay, so they lost that game, a game that they led in the fourth quarter.
They did.
This wasn't a game where the Swans were up 20-25 and the Pies threw in some garbage time goals. No, I mean, this was a competitive contest all the way through. Not only did they lose to Sydney, he also sat in that draw a couple weeks ago against Hawthorn.
Yep. Yeah.
So I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, there's 2 points right there. There's 4 points they lost by.
I was just going to say, I don't think you can assume they would have 8 more points than they do.
Yeah.
But given the way he's played this year, and he hasn't been bad, he had a Boffo game against Essendon a couple weeks ago. What do you have, 43 disposals?
Well, everybody does against Essendon, apparently.
43 disposals, 2 goals. Okay? He's been best and fairest on the best and fairest list 3 times this year.
Oh.
Okay? He's been the number 3 in their opener against St. Kilda. He was number 3 a couple weeks ago in their loss to Geelong. So it's not a stretch to think that this guy not only could have helped the Pies, but helped them get over the finish line.
Yeah. And it's baffling because, you for a team like that, that's, you're trying to be in that top half, and you're trying to get out of it, especially you're trying to get out of that wild card range if possible. If you can get in the top 6, so you don't have to worry about that.
They're not even in the wild card range right now. That's the thing.
But yeah, they're out.
They're sitting there. They're sitting there at 11th.
Yep.
They're sitting there at 11th with 2 games that they wanted to manage him just so he could wear, a Guernsey with gold numbers on it this week against West Coast.
Exactly. And which is the other thing, which seems to be, and I don't know the ins and outs of the salary cap over there, but apparently he's collecting 100% of all merchandise from this golden jersey, whereas I guess players only normally get 65% of the merchandise sales. I guess the clubs get the rest or the league gets the rest. I don't know how that works, but apparently they're making an exception in his case and giving him all the money for this.
I swear to you, Joe, I'm seeing all these stats and I'm seeing everything that's swirling around this story. And I'm just like, do I not understand sport anymore? Do I not understand what competition is and winning and losing? I mean, what am I missing here? And there's going to be that segment of the population, right? That anytime there's just an ounce of criticism for what's going on, they're going to immediately reply, oh, you're just taking a big old dump on a guy that should be celebrated for his play and his longevity, and you have no respect for him, and what's the matter with you? And I'll tell you what's the matter with me. The guy should have been on the field.
Yep. Now, I would like to know if he played. I mean, I'm assuming he was rested and not hurt for the games he has sat out. But the way the schedule was set up, had he played every game, would he have originally broken it in a home game? I don't know.
Let's see. So let's see. So he would have needed what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games, right?
Uh-huh.
So we would have been talking opening round and then week 7, which would have been the game against Essendon. If my math's right. And I'm not so sure it's right because he's already missed 3.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just wondering why. I don't know. If they had a chance earlier in the year, why not have him do it?
It's the games he's missed.
Yeah,
that bothers me.
Yeah,
he did not play against Brisbane, and that was a 54-point loss.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he did not play in the draw against Hawthorn, a top ladder team. He did not play last week against Sydney. And I'm just like, I mean, I understand what you're saving him for, but what happens the first week? What happens the first week of September when all of a sudden you need 8 points?
Yep.
And they're nowhere to be found.
Exactly. And he, they expected to lose all 3 of those. They split one. They got clubbed by Brisbane. They tied the one, which, he's there. Maybe they get the extra 2 points. And then they only lose by 6 to Sydney, which maybe he makes that difference. So that's a potential 6-point swing right there.
Sydney, despite the fact that they're top of the ladder, they were ripe, right?
Yeah.
They have been ripe for the picking for like the last month. And somehow, to their credit, okay, and this has got to be mental toughness for the Swans, but to their credit, I think they got to know they are not playing their best right now. And yet they have been able to not only win, but have a sidecar with Freo, but now extend the advantage over the rest of the league to 2 games. It was a game and a half last week. Now it's 2 full games. The cushion they have with the midpoint of the season coming up.
Froze up.
But that Sydney team, they're ripe right now. And I just don't understand how you could give up the possibility of those points.
I don't know either. If you're serious, about trying to compete this year and contend for something, which, they have a decent team. They've got good players on that team.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they got the best, arguably the best player, Nick Dacos.
Exactly.
And they have Jamie Elliott, who drives me crazy because he always sticks it up Carlton's butt every time they play each other. I can't stand the guy, but he's probably a guy I would love to have on my team. Collingwood is, Collingwood's a decent team. It's just not, it's not like, and I keep trying to think back to like Cal Ripken in Baltimore. It's not like Cal Ripken, like Baltimore trying to manage his schedule. So they did it on a certain date, although I'm sure Major League Baseball had it set up so that the record would be done in Baltimore. They kind of knew that. But it's just not a good look the way that they've kind of managed this thing with him. Because it has come at the expense of them maybe winning some games, and it could cost them a playoff spot.
Yeah, and again, I know we can't assume victories, but I mean, come on, you're on the outside looking in right now, which is far worse than being on the inside looking out, right? And even Pendlebury has said himself that all of this attention is making him uncomfortable, and it can't be helping. I mean, he's got to know in the back of his mind, this is a guy that's is going to have played 433 games. Okay? He is the league career leader in disposals, handballs, and what was the other one? Tackles. Okay? So it's not like this guy has shied away from the action. You can't tell me in the back of his mind, he's like, God, I wish I was on the field against Hawthorn. I think I could have made a difference. I wish I was on the field against Sydney. I could have made a difference. You can't tell me he wasn't thinking that.
He most definitely had to be thinking that. Wherever he watched it from, the press box or home, or I'm sure he wanted to be out there. Now Brisbane, they got crushed. I don't think he'd have made that much of a difference. But still, if you're a competitor, you want to be out there playing against the best teams.
Absolutely.
If you're going to sit him against Richmond. Sit him against Essendon.
I mean, and nothing against West Coast because they are, as young as anything. They are as green a team as you are ever going to find, I think. Okay. And the fact that they've got 3 wins through the first 10 games is probably, I mean, we probably talking outside coach of the year votes for that organization, right? But you've decided to do this against West Coast, and I don't know. To me, that's not the same as doing it against a top tier team.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you're going to wear a jersey where you stick out like a sore thumb, right? With the gold 10 on it. And I saw an unconfirmed report that he's going to change his jersey 6-7 times so they can auction a couple off for charity and stuff like that. I mean, it's just crazy the pomp and circumstance that's going on with this, countered with the fact that he wasn't playing when he could have been.
Yep. Yeah. It's mind-boggling that that he hasn't been out there, and I'm sure he'll be glad when this is over with, so the attention can go back on the team.
I would think
off of him, because it just it hasn't been the fairy tale saga or part of the season I think that people expected when he was approaching this record.
Yeah, and again, all the flowers to Scott Pendlebury. I mean, 433 games is an incredible accomplishment.
Yeah.
He should be feted over and over and over again. But it's not like it was a secret to Collingwood that this was coming up.
Yeah.
That it could have been managed a little better. I don't know. It just seems to me it could have been managed a little better. And if you look at the end of their season, Joe, I mean, like I said, they're sitting at 11 right now. They're just outside the wild card. I mean, we're not even talking about, a tried and true final berth, the top 6, which is what everybody's gunning for, right? You want the top 6. You don't want to be playing in that middle week between the end of the regular season and when the final starts, right?
Yeah.
So they're sitting there at 11th. Do you want to hear how they end the season?
Give it to me.
Week 21, 22, 23, and 24. Okay. Geelong, week 21.
Mm-hmm.
They have to travel to Perth to take on West Coast again in week 22.
Okay.
Hawthorn, week 23. Brisbane, week 24. 2 of those teams they've already lost by more than 50.
Yes.
I hope to God they find these wins early. Because if they're searching for 4 points that last month of the season, they might have another thing coming.
Yeah. And they got one more with the old Blues too, who might be poised to pull off an upset.
Well, you know what? You can't throw shade on the Blues now. I mean, not that they were overpowering this week, but still. They looked a lot better in that fourth quarter than they've looked probably all season.
Yeah.
And so you cannot overlook them. And honestly, you can't overlook West Coast. I mean, that's what Greater Western did this past week. Pretty obvious, I think.
Oh, yeah.
So happy to gloat in their social media victories and their beating of Essendon, and then they absolutely, poop emoji the bed against West Coast, which really kind of throws a wrench into our, AFL Wooden Spoon Invitational sponsored by 4 and 20 Meat Pies.
Hey,
because
GWS
now they got 3 wins. Carlton's got a couple wins. Yeah.
GWS might be right down there fighting for the coveted spoon.
I'll tell you what, if they're not careful and if they don't figure something out, I mean, 4, 5, 6 wins might be their ceiling. And you're right. That would be, I don't know that there would be more of a disappointment in the league than that.
Yeah.
Maybe St. Kilda, if they were to collapse and miss the playoffs by, say, 3-4 games.
Yeah.
Although, again, with the Saints, they weren't, despite the deep pockets, they weren't expected to do much. I don't know. We'll have to keep an eye. On all that. So they released the rest of the fixture. Let's talk about this a little bit. Carlton didn't get any primetime games.
No, no, no shocker there in the way, especially with Michael, even with Michael Voss being gone. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't expect they're expecting the bounce.
Yeah.
It's not surprising. I mean, it just
No.
I was actually checking, and from a selfish standpoint, being over here, I thought, oh, okay, well, that means there's a chance that they're playing these Saturday morning games over there that I'll be able to watch at 11:15 at night on a Friday. Over here, I can actually see the game at a decent hour for me. So I think they got one or two of those. They don't. Yeah,
Joe, they got more than that.
Yeah.
They really do. They've got so they announced 7 more games.
Yeah.
They still have yet to announce the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Which makes all the sense in the world. You want the best matchups. The NFL does it too.
Yeah.
They leave you hanging until the very end so they can make the most money that they can, of course. Mm-hmm. Hey, the money. But Carlton, those last 7 games, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games that are either Saturday morning around 5-ish or Sunday morning around 5-ish.
Yeah.
You're good to go for the last part of this season, no matter what's happening.
Yeah, they don't got the Thursday or Friday, the coveted night games. I mean, they got some Saturday night games and I think a couple Sundays, but yeah, they don't have the coveted Thursday, Friday block that they've been promoting for these TV games.
Right, right. That belongs to Sydney and Geelong, which is no surprise. 1 and 3 on the ladder. Freo kind of got. I don't say they got shafted, but they're sitting there at number 2. They've been hanging with Sydney for what the better part of a month now.
Yeah.
And other than the flag mantle posts that I see this week, they've kind of flown under the radar, and it looks like they're going to keep doing that by not getting those big primetime games in the second half of the season.
Well, and if they do and they get a home game, you can watch out for Wharfie time in the fourth quarter.
There you go. There you go. Wharfie time. Here's the other thing about Carlton, by the way. That 7-game stretch starting with week 16.
Mm-hmm.
Here's where they play. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Marvel. MCG. 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 Marvel. 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 They're not going anywhere to play these games. There should not be any. There should not be any road rust on the Blues.
No, and I lost you after the 4th MCG, so I don't know where they ended up there. But I know they've got
three MCGs, 4 Marvels that last 7 weeks.
Yeah. They're not leaving Victoria apparently.
No. The D's, in case you're interested, have a little more difficult schedule. They're actually off week 16. They go to Tasmania to play Hawthorn in week 17.
Yeah.
Richmond at the MCG for 18. North at Marvel for week 19 for the beating the Roos so desperately deserve. Geelong, Gold Coast, Freo ending at MCG, People First and MCG. So, and then they finish with Port Adelaide and Western, and Port is an away game, so I assume that's going to be at the Adelaide Oval.
Yeah.
And Western will either be at Marvel or MCG. So, the D's, if they can keep this up, not the easy schedule down the stretch. I mean, Geelong's in there, Gold Coast is in there, Hawthorn is in there, Western, again, I don't think we're really going to know about that, and Freo's in there. So, I mean, the D's are playing pretty much the top of the ladder to end the season. It's crazy.
And that'll get them tested. If they're going to make the playoffs, they'll kind of have an idea of where they stack up. If they can make the finals and get in that top 10.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you read the socials, punch your ticket, make your travel plans. They're going to be in the final. They're 7-3. In all seriousness, though, Stephen King, what a job he's done.
He'd be coach of the year in my book.
Well, and I hope a lot of it is because, despite some of the turnover in the front office, that they have let him do what he wants to do. You know what I mean? Because I think it's obvious the team has bought in now to the style of play he prefers, especially since they know that they can execute. And they can mix it in with older guys like Max Gawn, and it works. It still works.
It does. And, they've got, like I said, they've got the younger guys, the Pickett's buying in. They're a quality team, and I expected them to be on the outside looking in. Figured they'd be down there with Carlton jostling for the bottom 5-6 spots there. But no, they're a surprise team. They're a refreshing team. They play fast. They play good. They're playing an exciting brand of footy that he's brought to them. And like you said, they've bought in, and they're definitely going to be a team that's worth watching. Now, it's you maybe need to pump the brakes on this after going 7-3. You don't want to get too far out over your
skis. Oh, absolutely.
But you want to be excited. You want to be, at least you're encouraged. Could be 3-7. Hey, you're 7-3. Take it and embrace what you've got here, because you're doing much better than you expected to be. So even if you have a few stumbles here and there, just keep that in mind as you're going forward.
Would you rather be the Demons, who are sitting with 28 points and 5th on the ladder? Or would you rather be Collingwood, who's sitting there at 11th with a couple question mark games already behind you?
Yep.
Because you didn't want to play your legend, as it were. And he is. I mean, I don't think it's any stretch to say that this guy is a legend. To play that many games over a career is an incredible accomplishment. What was the name? Let me see here. Where are my notes now? Brett Harvey is the guy he's going to pass.
Okay.
Who played for the Roos, and he retired in 2016. So, I mean, this is a record that's been standing for 10 years.
10 years.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, this is not like something that happens every day. And don't get me wrong. I understand where Collingwood wants to maximize the exposure and maximize the pomp and circumstance. But I got to tell you, when it comes to stacking wins in games that maybe you're not supposed to win, but you're in, I don't know. I hope it's worth it. I hope it's worth it for Collingwood, and I hope it's worth it for their fan base, because I'll tell you what, if they enter September and they're in trouble, there is no way you don't point to what happened in late April, early May.
Yeah, and we'll be talking about, and if they are, we'll be calling them out on it, heading into the finals on who's there and who's not there.
By the way, I want to touch on this real quick, and we'll finish up with Melbourne here. A couple weeks ago, Harrison Petty had an episode inside the goal box, and he was taken off the field with dizziness and weakness in his body. Mm-hmm. He finally talked about it this past week. He was diagnosed with a vestibular migraine, which causes the symptoms he was exhibiting. Even though it says migraine, you don't have to have a headache, apparently, for this to happen.
Yeah. Which
explains why 1 minute, and he explained this, 1 minute he seemed fine, and the next minute he was down on one knee, not knowing what was going on. They don't expect it to come back. They don't know why it happened, but they've cleared him for everything. And just so you know, 12 disposals, 3 goals, and a minor in that victory against Hawthorn. So that puts a bow, I think, on the Harrison Petty story.
Yeah, and at least he didn't get fireman carried off the field either by an opposing player.
like at Langford. Boy, you know what? He's another guy that's played well the past couple games. Yeah. They're getting contributions from names that you don't hear. Okay.
Yeah. I
mean, Harrison Petty was phenomenal against Hawthorn, as I just said. 3 goals and a behind.
Mm-hmm.
He was fantastic. But some of these names that you're not hearing are stepping up too. And if that continues, maybe these social media people are right, but I'm not going to say it. And honestly, that's kind of the vibe I get from D's social media. You know what I mean? We are so careful and cautious right now. It's like we have our 7 wins and we're holding them to our chest and we don't want to share them with anybody. And maybe it's true and maybe it's not. We have to keep looking down to make sure we have 7 wins. I mean, that's kind of how we are right now. It's not going to be real until there's an X next to Melbourne in the ladder, saying clinched playoff berth. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And no respect to disrespect to Harrison Petty there. I was getting him confused with Atlanta. Harrison Petty, what was the thing he was involved with earlier in the year? Was it the guy? Was it the guy that made him cry, or was that another?
I think that may have been something else too. I'm trying to think. I don't know that Harrison Petty had been. I think that episode he had at his own goal box.
Okay.
I mean, he had just kicked a ball that shanked off his foot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's basically an unforced error. And he really did it. I don't know that anybody asked him, and he really didn't explain whether that had something to do with this vestibular migraine that apparently he was, in the process of having.
Mm-hmm.
But good news that he's fine. Good news that he's productive. And good news for the D's, even though we are clutching these wins against our chest, and we will do so until we actually make the final. I just want to make that clear.
Harrison Petty is the guy that Patrick Voss made fun of with the crybaby.
Oh, that's right.
That's right. That's
right.
That's right.
That's right. Okay. So that's good to clear up. So just to go over round 10 again, Geelong blistering Brisbane.
Let me say one other thing too.
Oh, sure.
Because of that Harrison Petty, after what you just said, that makes what Patrick Voss did to him that more despicable, really. Because if you know he's had these issues, you're making fun of this guy, and maybe he's had these issues more than he's let on. And
maybe, but I don't think Voss would have known. I know none of us knew.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a complete mystery when it happened because it was just so sudden.
Yeah.
Like I said, he was fine. He was fine. He was trying to get rid of the ball, and it didn't work out. And then all of a sudden, he's down to one knee, and you're just like, well, what happened to him? I mean, if anything, you thought that maybe he'd done something to his ankle or his knee or something on the kick itself until you saw him being helped off the field. And he was visibly dizzy, visibly weak. It was really hard for him to get his legs, under him. So I understand what you're saying. I totally get what you're saying. It's kind of despicable anyway, whether, he was sick or not. I mean, let's be real.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I could go as far as, since none of us really knew. And honestly, I'm still really unclear on a vestibular migraine. I mean, there doesn't seem to be too much about it other than, it happens and you don't need a headache and all this kind of stuff. So, but I see where you're coming from. I mean, I think the Voss action is kind of despicable to begin with, but you're absolutely right.
Move on.
Okay, Brisbane getting blitzed. So now what do we think about the Lions? I mean, I don't know what to think.
I don't know what to think either, because that's a game that I figured they would win. Now, I guess you also have to put the revenge factor in there for Geelong losing the grand final. Maybe they come out with a little
extra right.
Emotion.
That was the rematch.
Yeah,
that was the rematch, and it really wasn't a game. I mean, Geelong was in control.
Yeah,
for
Geelong,
4 quarters.
They flexed their muscles and showed it. And the one guy was his name Sam Manna. I think he had 5 goals.
Yeah,
for their game. Jeremy Cameron was back to his old self. They were just kind of going up and down the field at will, and really looked like a team that could be in the mix for the grand final again. I mean, a few weeks ago we were wondering what was wrong with Geelong, but when they want to turn it on and play well, that's an example of what they can do.
And you look at the schedule, game of the week, Joe.
Yep.
Geelong and Sydney this week.
Yeah.
And in fact, Geelong a 9.5-point favorite.
Ooh.
In that game. And we'll go over the rest of the lines here in just a second. We talked about Sydney Collingwood. Gold Coast gets another win. So they continue to build momentum in the top 6. They beat Port Adelaide. The Roos getting absolutely pasted by Adelaide this week. 133-65.
I tried to watch some of that, and it was like 19-1, like 5 minutes in, and I just had to give up. It just was not competitive.
The Melbourne victory, the big victory. Carlton's big win over Western. Freo all over Essendon, no surprise there. St Kilda beat Richmond pretty good, 109-73. And then, of course, the shocker to end the weekend was West Coast, 88-71 over Greater Western. And if I'm not mistaken, that's a game that West Coast had to rally in the second half to get that victory, I think.
I believe they did. And, West Coast would have been a deserving candidate for the Song of the Week if it wasn't for the Carlton win.
Yeah, no. I'm with you.
We don't know how many more West Coast is going to is going to give us by the end of the year. I have a feeling we'll sneak them in once as we get to the second half here.
No, I think you're right. And now an apology from me and a plea for a second chance.
I know where this is going.
For completely butchering the indigenous names of the 6 teams using them for the Sir Doug Nicholls round, which continues this week. And as Joe correctly pointed out to me this week, it's 2 weeks because, Joe,
every team gets a home game. Every team gets a chance to have
that's right. Every team gets a chance to recognize indigenous culture and their footprint as far as the sport goes and as the country goes. So we're going to try this again. Adelaide, and I have. Let me show you my big notes here. I've got the pronunciations right here.
Ooh,
okay, yeah. You know, and again, this is I'm with you. I should have done this last week. I hear you. So this is the second chance, right? Adelaide is Aguwana. That is how you pronounce their indigenous name. St. Kilda is Yoru Yoruk. West Coast is Walich, Marawa. Fremantle or Frio is Wolyulup. Port Adelaide is Yartapolti. That's the one I like the most, by the way. I like that even better than Melbourne's. And Melbourne's is the easiest. And again, apologies. It's actually 5 letters and not 4. I'd like to think that I'm a little prepared for this show. Maybe not. Maybe I got a little bit of work to do. It's 5 letters and it's pronounced Naarm. And that is Melbourne's indigenous name. So I'm glad I got those out of the way, and I appreciate the grace that you give me to be able to do that again.
So I enjoyed on the broadcast too. Like some of the announcers called them by the indigenous names,
which I think they should.
Yeah,
honestly, because if you look at the AFL site, and if you look at all their stories that they've done the last 2 weeks, they are all in. They are all in on the indigenous portions of what's going on this weekend. Not only have they replaced the contemporary names with their indigenous counterpart, but they've changed the logos to reflect the indigenous time. And I think that's fantastic. I mean, if you're going to do that, you need to go all you need to go all in. And by all intents and purposes, the league is going all in their branding for what's going on this past 2 weeks with the Sir Doug Nicholls rounds. All right, so second week of the Sir Doug Nicholls rounds starts off Thursday, Hawthorn Adelaide, and the Hawks are 16.5-point favorites.
I'm going to think Hawthorn's going to have. They should win that. I think they have some. After that loss, I would think that to Melbourne. I think they want to get back on the winning track here and improve something. And Adelaide's so up and down. I think Hawthorn covers that point spread.
Now, does it make a difference that game is not in Victoria? That game is actually at the University of Tasmania Stadium.
Okay. Well, I guess that's considered a home game for Hawthorn, right? They play a couple games there a year. I mean, they should have a good crowd. So I would think. I still like Hawthorn in that situation.
By the way, I went 5-4 last week in my picks, including starting 0-3. I mean, I can't get out of Thursday without a hope of hitting the parlay, right?
Yeah, you were 0-3 coming out of that, and I think I only did a 3-teamer or a 4-teamer. I was 3-1 or 2-1, something like that. I
ended up 5-4, and I was what, a point, or was it 2 points away from being 6-3?
You were very close. Yeah, it was very close.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that one ended up within a point or a point and a half.
Was that the St. Kilda game? I can't remember now.
I thought that was the Gold Coast. Is that who? I don't know who Gold Coast.
Oh yeah, because that was the end game. Yeah. I need one more point.
Yeah.
From Gold Coast to go 6-3. As it is though, we've got funds to do it again this week, and that's really all that counts.
That's right.
And actually, Joe won a little bit of money on the horsies this past weekend. We had the Preakness, the second leg of the quote unquote Triple Crown, which shouldn't be called the Triple Crown if the Kentucky Derby winner is not racing.
and it didn't. And
I'm going to die on that hill.
Yeah, I was able to pull some more winnings out of that one to add to my coffers, but that's a separate account, so I can't count that with my footy money. I haven't had a good run in footy lately, but we'll see about this week. We'll turn it around.
All right. See, I'm thinking maybe you should start posting your picks. Tail
I
them and weep.
although I don't do the full nine like you do. I like to
for
go
me,
with first goal scorer, and I haven't had any luck.
Oh yeah, you've been getting hammered on that. Yeah, you've been getting hammered on that. Yeah, tail them and weep. That's how it works for me. If I'm 5-4, won't get me some coffee, but 6-3 might get me a donut. I don't know.
There you go.
We'll see. So Hawthorne is a 16.5-point favorite over Adelaide on Thursday. Friday, 3 games. Richmond, 12.5-point dog against Essendon.
The
bottom of the ladder.
I might take Richmond in the points on that one. Essendon is really disappointing.
Yeah, I mean this is part of our wooden spoon invitational.
That's right.
That kind of got upended last week. Freo, 24.5-point favorite over St. Kilda.
I think Freo covers that to 24.5. I think Freo wins that one handily.
So you're saying that Freo keeps pace with Sydney?
Yes, and Freo's at home, I believe, right?
They are.
Yes,
they are. That's at Optus. Yes, that's at Optus Stadium. The Roos, 10.5-point dogs to Gold Coast. They should be 1,000-point dogs to Gold Coast. But anyway, what do you think?
Gold Coast. I'm not. Where's that? It doesn't sound like that's a.
That game's at Marvel.
Yeah.
So Gold Coast is traveling in. Yeah.
Yeah. Gold Coast still should cover it. Gold Coast is a much better team. North. Their wins recently are like the worst teams on the ladder, and they're getting thumped by everybody else.
Yeah.
So yeah, Gold Coast should win that easily, I would think.
Saturday games, there are 4 of them, starting with the game of the week. Geelong, 9.5-point favorite over Sydney at GMHBA.
I would be so tempted to take Sydney in this one, even though Geelong's played well.
But Sydney hasn't. That's the thing.
Yeah. But you just don't know what you're getting out of Geelong on a weekly basis. And, they look like world beaters the one week, then the next week they kind of fall back. I think I'm going to go with Sydney.
Okay. Collingwood in the Pendlebury game against West Coast, 43.5 points is the spread.
Wow. Collingwood's one of those teams you don't know what you're going to get. I'd be tempted on paper to take the 43.5. I mean, Collingwood should win this game easily, but 43.5 points easily.
I'll tell you what, 43.5 is steep.
Yeah.
That's steep. And I feel like if we've learned anything in the first, 10 weeks of the season, is that it seems like these huge spreads cover maybe half the time.
Yeah.
So a spread like that kind of frightens me a little bit. Carlton is a 10.5-point dog against Port Adelaide.
I would say. I tell
you
what,
like Carlton now, though, don't you?
What's that?
You like Carlton now, though.
I do. I do.
You
and
like what you saw in the fourth quarter.
This is definitely a winnable game. The way they responded last week, I would take the 10.5. I think this is a game they could win. And, I expect it to be very close, even if they lose.
Greater Western and their high and mighty social media team, 14.5-point dogs against Brisbane. And honestly, I don't know that that's enough.
Oh, if it would be 30, I wouldn't have batted an eye. Brisbane should win that going away. And I sign me up for that one all day long.
Yeah, and you know what's going to happen? Greater Western's going to make a game of this. You watch.
Yeah,
you watch. If only because Brisbane did not show up against Geelong, and now all of a sudden we don't know where the Lions are.
Yeah.
So I don't know. The finale of the weekend is the D's.
Mm-hmm.
2.5-point favorite over Western.
Okay, I can see it. Yeah, they should be a favorite the way Western's played and with the injuries Western's had. I would be tempted to go with I would go with Melbourne and give those 2 points.
I'm going to tell you right now, I would take the D's.
Yeah,
I think the D's win by at least 3. Absolutely. Yeah, I think they are playing that well.
I mean, you still have in the back of your mind the way they played against Essendon, but maybe that's in the past and they've got that out of their blood. But I just think they're a much better team right now.
I want to hope so, Joe, so bad.
Mm-hmm.
I want to hope that Essendon was just a blip.
Mm-hmm.
Just a pebble in the shoe. But again, we've got our 7 wins, Joe, and we're not sharing them with anybody. The ladder, Sydney Frio at the top with 36 points. Again, now 2 games clear of the field. Geelong, Gold Coast, Melbourne at 28. Hawthorn 26. So that's the top 6. Brisbane, Adelaide at 24. St. Kilda, Western at 20. That's the wild card round.
Mm-hmm.
Collingwood with 18. North Melbourne with 16. Greater Western with 16. Port at 12. West Coast at 12. Carlton 8. Essendon 4. And Richmond bringing up the rear at 4. And their percentage is still a paltry 60.9%. Joe Rudder, your final thought, please.
Final thought. I really enjoyed the first week of the Doug Nicholls round, and it was a great coming out party for
Absolutely.
a young Carlton player, Jack Eisen, who is indigenous, and they had the pregame ceremony where the indigenous the people coming out, and they did their dance and the smoke and the didgeridoos, and him and Zach Williams were both indigenous players, one player from the other team, and they did the ceremony. And it was very well done. And, he fit right in with that. And then to complete a storybook finish, he gets tackled, gets the free kick in the 4th quarter, puts it right between the uprights for his first career goal. Had, I think, a behind earlier. And, his teammates couldn't have been happier for him. Really kind of just made him the star of the game and really came in and supported him throughout this. And it was just good to kind of see that, for a young guy like that in his first game. And, it gives you hope that that's, somebody they can build around in the future. And I was glad to see that. And I'd like to see what, he does for an encore, especially in this second week of the Doug Nicholls round.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, all the flowers to Carlton for finally getting off the schneid, and frankly, finally doing what needed, whether it was Voss that left on his own terms, whether he was pushed out, for them finally able to move ahead in this season. So flowers to the Blues. They've never let you down, though. That's what the song says.
Have never let me down. That's what. Hey, I got to go by the song.
That's right.
My
final thought has to do with the schedule release for the AFL because it coincided with the NFL's schedule release this week, and it has become tradition with National Football League teams. They like to put together funny and clever videos that accompany their schedule release, including our very own Pittsburgh Steelers, and a schedule that ended up being about 2 seconds worth of the video. So my question is to the AFL, you actually have 2 schedule releases. Where are your clever and funny videos? I don't see them anywhere. Greater Western, where's your clever and funny video for the rest of your schedule of teams that are going to beat your butt into the ditch? And then you're going to sit there going, oh, I don't know what happened. Where's your funny videos? I think you're missing out, AFL, and Greater Western. I think you're really missing out by not doing a video on this. You're missing out in more of growth of the game and exposure to the rest of the world.
And I would love
that Joe's my final thought.
I would watch every one of those videos too if they were done if they put as much effort into them that the NFL social media teams do, because some of these teams, they just go way out. And with AI, it's become a lot easier for teams to do this.
Yeah.
But I would start hoping in the future the AFL gets in on the game and puts a little creativity into some of these schedule release announcements. Maybe for the last 2 weeks, especially for the teams near the top of the ladder, maybe they can have a little fun and do something with that.
Perhaps, but I don't know that 2 weeks is enough. But
no,
I see where you're coming from, and I will begrudgingly say, as much as I rip some of these schedule announcements, including my hometown Pittsburgh Steelers, I do watch every one of them, and some of them more than once. So anyway. That's our show. Joe, we almost broke an hour. We almost got it under an hour this week. We're getting better. We're getting better at it. Okay?
We'll try to cut it down 5 minutes and make it for the next time. At least we didn't go 120.
Yeah, that was you were right. That was a little exhausting last week.
Yeah.
And frankly, no one wants to hear us yammer for an hour and 20 minutes. What are we thinking? That's our show for this week. You can find us on all the socials, including YouTube, where you're probably watching us now. WTF What the Footy. We are on Twitter at WTF What the Footy, where we are pinned every week at the top of our account. We are on Facebook at WTF What the Footy, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Instagram. Have we posted yet to Instagram?
We have not. I've been searching for ways to get short clips on there. This retirement life hasn't enabled me to do that yet. I've got to
maybe
make time.
not. Maybe not.
Yeah.
we're working on it. Okay.
Yes.
Hey, social media is hard. Okay. When you got 50 different accounts, social media is hard. You know,
you need a brand manager, I guess.
You know, I rip on Greater Western, but you know what? Tough job.
It is.
Tough job. Anyway, for Joe Rutter, I'm Robert Gregory. See you next time.
Showtime.
Okay, we're getting closer to an hour.
Yes.
That's good.
We're getting
there. That's good. I'm actually a little hoarse right now. Too much screaming about Scott Pendlebury. You know?
Yeah.
I kind of feel bad for him. I kind of feel bad for the guy. I mean,
yeah, he doesn't deserve.
I can't imagine he asked for any of this. You know?
I can't imagine he did either.
But don't you? I don't know. Don't you? I don't know. Maybe. I mean, you know, if you're in the league for 433 games, I would think that you don't rock the boat.
Yeah.
And despite any feeling you had to not skip games to make this such a spectacle at home, you say something.
Yeah. And I'm like you said, I'm sure you wanted to be out there. I'm sure you wanted to be playing in these games. I'm sure it wasn't his decision to do this.
I don't think it's invalid.
Yeah.
You know, the 2 points you left with Hawthorn in a winnable game in Sydney. And you look at that stretch at the end. Yeah. You know, I hope we're not talking about this. Because I don't know. How do you explain that to your fan base? Was it worth a gold 10 on a Guernsey?
We'll see you next week.
I don't know. We'll see.